China's former Premier Li Keqiang has died. State media says he suffered a heart attack and he was 68 years old. Now, for more on the story, let's speak now with Ina Tangen. He is Senior Fellow at the Taihe Institute and Chairman of Asian Narratives. Mr. Tangen, welcome to the program. Now, first of all, Mr. Li was the son of a local official in the impoverished province of Anhui. How did he rise through the ranks?
He started off as a sent-down youth in the Cultural Revolution. He then came back. He attended university, the University of Peking University, where he had both law and undergraduate economics degrees, and then got his PhD from the same university. He rose up through the Communist Youth League. And that's where he met Hu Jintao. They became very close. He variously served as governor, party secretary, and vice premier prior to becoming premier of China.
In terms of his legacy, Mr. Tangen, he was known to consistently push the private economy and foreign investment. What do you think he would like to be remembered for as China's #2 leader?
Well, I think his legacy is still intact. If you start looking at the policies that are being pushed forward today, it's about opening it up. It's about learning from both the successes and the mistakes of other economies and countries. Very much along that line, he was somebody who was pushing for China to move from this investment-led economy to a consumption-led economy. So I think his legacy will be intact, especially the fact that he was regarded as a technocrat, as somebody who was interested in the well-being of his people. He had no controversies around him. He really was somebody that I think people could admire. There were times when he was facing tough situations with the what happened with the blood situation. Many people, blood was being shared and pooled, and it wasn't safe. He had to deal with that. There are other issues, but he successfully managed those to become the top bureaucrat of China.
And if I may highlight something he said to his staff in a farewell speech, he said, "While people work, heaven watches. Heaven has eyes." And observers have described these words as cryptic and unusually candid. What do you make of these final words before he left office? What was he alluding to, you think?
Well, I mean, one of the big issues in China is that you have a one-party system, and that the work of the party has to be unassailable. It has to be for the good of the people. You cannot have an institution that depends on one organ if it is corrupt. And I think he would join in Xi Jinping in making sure that the party is able to rise above all. He was always a team player. Often people said, "Oh, he was sidelined," but it wasn't really true. There was, when you're the top bureaucrat, you're 70% about operations, 30% about policy. When you're head of the party, you're the opposite. You are about 70% policy and 30% operations. During a very challenging period of time when there were issues about social integration and also social priorities, I should say, and also headwinds geopolitically with the United States, policy and politics took precedence. So, it was more about the circumstances than the man himself. I think he's greatly admired. And I think he was extolling his staff to understand that they have a very, very heavy responsibility, and that they should assume that their actions will be judged.
Mr. Tangen, in what ways did Mr. Li's political agenda clash with that of President Xi? What do you think he could have done differently to be in Mr. Xi's loyalists group?
Well, I think this is a common misperception. You have to understand that the standing committee, 7 people, meet on a weekly basis, and in the upper echelons of the Chinese party, it's about getting along. It is not about confrontation. Don't imagine a Western-style boardroom where the majority rules and people are pounding the table. Consensus is very, very important, and sometimes meetings can go a very long time until everybody in the room has reached a consensus point. This idea that he was opposed to Xi's policies or anything like that is something that the popular press has kind of pushed, especially in the West. The fact is, they were very collegial. They had to get along. Always there are egos, and there are also different philosophical approaches, priorities. But it really wasn't the way that people like to depict it. He wasn't against the Xi camp or anything like that. He was simply trying to push the operational responsibilities. As I said before, his job as the top bureaucrat was the operations of the country, getting the policies done. He sometimes saw that as more pressing in terms of being more open to the West, but not copying the West. He was very clear about that. He wanted to take the best of what the West had to offer, open markets and things like this, and efficiencies, but he was not interested in some of the other things that he saw deficiencies.
So what does his departure mean for China and its people then? And what do you think his obituary that is expected to be out very soon would look like?
I think his obituary will be that whether you're poor or powerful, your example will be, seen throughout history. I mean, this is a man who he had diabetes, very advanced form. That put him at risk in terms of his organs, especially his heart. And he continued in a very, very high pressure job. Sometimes the sacrifices that we make personally are paid for by the tears of those who love us. He's left behind by a wife and daughter. He spoke English very fluently. He was a man who, was very modern. He was looking for a world which is perhaps a lot better at getting along than we currently are. His example, the fact that he was willing to continue doing something that he thought was important despite the risks to himself, I think will be part of his legacy, and the fact that he lived such a exemplary life in his personal style.
All right, Mr. Tang, and thank you so much for speaking with us. Ina Tang, there, Senior Fellow at Taihe Institute and Chairman of Asian Narratives.